cases when defendants were released on bail. Detained pedophiles require special attention. Stopping people from harming themselves is difficult. CNN's crime and justice reporter Shimon Prokupets joins us now with the latest. Shimon, we've learned Epstein was taken off suicide watch in late July. Why?
That is the critical question now, Anna. What happened? It was after that first incident that we've all reported on in July, on July 23rd, where he was found injured in his jail cell with marks on his neck. It is after that time that he was placed on suicide watch. For whatever reason, the psychologists and staff at the jail decided by the end of the month, in just a week, to take him off the suicide watch. They interviewed him. They almost on a daily basis, we're told, interacted with him. They assessed him on a daily. He had injured himself in this jail cell. They decided that they were going to take him off suicide watch, and they placed him back in the special housing unit of the jail. He was segregated from the general population because of the nature of this case, because of the publicity that this case has received. They put him in a special housing unit, and it is there, we're told this morning, early this morning, that he was found unconscious just about 6:30 in the morning, and about 10 minutes later, he was taken to the hospital, and that is where he was pronounced dead, Anna. But that is the big question, Anna. What happened in that week? Why did the officials at the jail decide to take him off suicide watch?
We know Jeffrey Epstein was willing to pony up $100 million in bail to get out of jail. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to recognize here's a guy desperate for a way out. So where does this now leave the investigation? Will prosecutors go after Epstein's associates who allegedly helped procure and abuse these girls?
Well, they've said in a statement, the Southern District of New York, Jeffrey Berman, the U.S. attorney there, who, let me tell you, has been very active in this investigation. He's showed up. He's the man who's running that office, the Southern District of New York. He showed up at every court hearing, at the arraignments, at the updates. He would come himself. It's rare that you see a U.S. attorney appear in court during an investigation, during the pending case. That's how significant this investigation has been for the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York. That's how significant it has been for him as the U.S. Attorney. And he issued a statement today saying that this is not over. Obviously, the case against Jeffrey Epstein, that's done with. But it's a conspiracy case. Anyone else tied to this conspiracy should be worried. His statement said that the investigation is going to continue as it relates to the conspiracy. We have yet to know who has been cooperating in this investigation. The complaint that the U.S. Attorney's Office puts out, the information, is that they have had people cooperating, it would seem. They don't name them. We don't know enough yet in terms of who else was involved that they were looking at. But it's very clear, based on the statement from the U.S. Attorney this morning, that they do intend to pursue other charges if they exist, and that this investigation is not over. That is very significant, certainly for the victims in this case, and for anyone else who may have helped Jeffrey Epstein, anyone else who may have hid these horrific crimes that he committed. All of that is still going to go on. That investigation is still going to go on by the U.S. Attorney's Office, Anna.
Okay. It's not over then. Okay, Shimon Prokupets,
no,
thank you for that. Associates. The 2015 defamation suit was filed by Virginia Giuffre, who says she was underage when Epstein allegedly kept her as a sex slave for years, flying her around the world. She alleges to have sex with powerful men. And among the men she claims she was trafficked to have sex with was Britain's Prince Andrew. In 2001. A Buckingham Palace spokesperson denies her claim, saying in response, this relates to proceedings in the United States to which the Duke of York is not a party. Any suggestion of impropriety with underage minors is categorically untrue. Now, Giuffre also says she was instructed to have sex with former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, a spokeswoman calling the allegation completely false and saying, quote, to be clear, in Governor Richardson's limited interactions with Mr. Epstein, he never saw him in the presence of young or underage girls. Governor Richardson has never been to Mr. Epstein's residence in the Virgin Islands. Governor Richardson has never met Ms. Giuffre. Now, many, including law enforcement, credit journalist Julie K. Brown for the fact that Epstein was even arrested and facing charges. Now, Brown began investigating Epstein in 2017, and she refused to stop chasing this story. She has been relentless in exposing Epstein and finding justice for his victims. And Julie K. Brown of the Miami Herald joins us now. Julie, thank you. Just hours before Epstein's apparent suicide, there was that massive document up in this case. We just went through some of these accusations that were revealed. Do you think it's a coincidence that Epstein's death happened so soon after the release of those documents?
I don't think anything in this case is a coincidence. I think everything that's happened in the order that, and as the evidence came out, I'm sure that he could feel things kind of closing in around him. He had known, I'm sure, for quite a while that the release of these documents was imminent, and that they were going to be pretty brutal. And they were. I mean, they are. They vulnerable girls and young women for years. And, so I think that I'm sure that he felt like this was going to be a really hard one to beat.
Julie, earlier I spoke with Mike Fiston. He's a private investigator. He worked with attorneys for Epstein's accusers. And let me just read you a quote from what he said. He said, Epstein lived his life not in a 4x4 cell, and he knew he only had two options. If he turned and cooperated against every person, no way this individual, knowing who he is and how he's lived, was going to do that. So let me ask you, you spent the last 2 years investigating Epstein. Would he be the type of person who would have killed himself without going to the feds and saying, I'll give you all these details about others involved for some kind of a plea deal?
I mean, it's hard to say what was really going through his head. I think that probably what it would have happened, he wouldn't have had a choice about that. I think that other people around him were probably going to cooperate, or are probably cooperating. So even if he had started to name names, or if he decided not to name names, it sort of got to the point now where the case was bigger than he is. Especially with U.S. Attorney Berman in New York, he was really determined, I think, to take this case as far as he can take it and hopefully find justice for these girls. And when you have a prosecutor like that is so dedicated, I mean, that's sort of the opposite of what happened here in Florida. They hid this case. They tried to sweep it under the rug here. And Berman from the outset was right out there in front of the cameras announcing that he was going to really do everything in his power to find justice for these victims.
And when Epstein was first arrested, you said there were powerful people sweating. Do you think those powerful people are breathing a sigh of relief today? Or based on what we're learning about the ongoing investigation, do you think they're actually even maybe more concerned?
They're not breathing a sigh of relief. I know I wouldn't be. I mean, this is serious, very serious. And, I just think that everybody who even, look the other way, even people who weren't involved, should really do some soul searching. And, I just think, we'll see where the evidence leads, but there were plenty of other people that knew about him, and there were plenty of people that made a lot of money off of helping him.
What does this mean for Epstein's victims?
Well, I think probably today they're not sure. I think that they're still processing what this means, and they're very emotional. I spoke with several of them this morning, and they're emotional. They're crying. They're angry. They feel like they've been robbed to some degree of the justice that they have fought for all these years, and they felt so close, because they never thought, and even I never thought that he would have been. I mean, people said all the time, he's never going to get arrested. He's never going to get arrested, and he got arrested, and and the charges seem very serious, and it looks like there's going to be a good case made against him, or there was going to be a good case made against him. So I think that I think that they're hoping that maybe they can find another justice by helping to, hoping to see the prosecution of other people who helped him.
Okay, Julie K. Brown, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your dogged reporting. It's been really impressive. What does Jeffrey Epstein's death now mean for the investigation into his alleged actions? We're going to talk more about that. There are still a lot of questions about what he's accused of doing, who else might have been involved. We'll talk live with a former federal prosecutor next. And later, Democrats running for president lay out their plans for gun reform. You're live in the CNN Newsroom. I'm Ana Cabrera. Don't go anywhere. To follow the breaking news out of New York, convicted pedophile and accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein is dead. Sources telling CNN the 66-year-old was discovered in his jail cell early this morning, where officials believe he hanged himself. CNN legal analyst and former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti is joining us now. And Renato, Epstein was placed on suicide watch, we know, when he was found with marks around his neck last month. But at the end of the month, we're told he was taken off that watch. What's your biggest question, given that information?
My biggest question is why did that happen? And I would like to see the written documentation that is supposed to be created when that happens. So there is going to be a memo or document somewhere that's going to explain why that took place. I suspect that memo is going to be very carefully scrutinized in the days to come.
I mean, given his status, I know you've represented other clients who have taken their own lives in prison. I mean, how would you have expected him to be treated behind bars?
Well, I would have expected a lot of attention to be paid to Mr. Epstein. You know, here's a man who's a very high-profile defendant in a facility that has housed many high-profile defendants. He's someone, you know, people who are accused of child exploitation often are the victims of violence. They have statistically a higher rate of suicide, so you would think that there'd be more attention paid to him for that reason as well. And then obviously we have this prior incident that occurred, and it would appear to be an attempted suicide by Mr. Epstein. So a whole lot of reasons why we would expect that a lot of attention will be paid to him. So I'm very surprised that this happened. It's not only a head scratcher, it raises a lot of very disturbing questions, and that's why everyone, I think, is very concerned about this.
The attorney for Virginia Giuffre and another accuser of Epstein's had this response. This is the end of one chapter, but only one chapter of the battle to bring the sex traffickers to justice. Jeffrey Epstein did not act and could not have done what he did alone. Justice demands that those who acted with him also be held to account. Renato, how does Epstein's death now impact the ongoing investigations and these outstanding lawsuits?
Wow, great question. So as to the investigation, one issue is that there's no longer anyone for his accomplices to flip against. Now the focus is going to be on those accomplices. And really the question is, will there be sufficient evidence to charge any of them? You know, with him alive, there was definitely going to be a public criminal trial. There would be a lot of witnesses being prepared for that and evidence being assembled for that. Now the question for the Southern District is, will they have enough evidence to charge one of these accomplices? As to the civil cases, one big issue is that previously they would have tried to seek the testimony of Epstein. Epstein would have to take the fifth almost certainly, and if that happened, they could use that taking the fifth against him in a civil proceeding. Now that is gone. They'll have to make do without his testimony. There's still obviously an opportunity for a lot of big revelations out of the civil cases. We've had those already in the civil cases thus far. Big names have been mentioned and evidence uncovered, but it's going to be, I think, a more narrow and longer road for victims to seek justice.
I mean, we talked about yesterday how hundreds of pages of additional court documents were unsealed in a New York federal court, and they contain new details of alleged sexual abuse, not only committed by Epstein, but they also implicate several of his associates. We talked about naming names, and some of them are big names, politicians, former prince. What does this mean for those people specifically? Does this death have an impact on potential litigation against them potentially?
I think that some of those people, I mean, they're not out of the woods yet. Some of the names that we've heard a lot about, they are still going to potentially be named in private suits. They still could potentially be witnesses in private suits. But I have to think some of them are breathing a lot easier now that they know that they won't have to potentially be called as witnesses in a public criminal trial. Alan Dershowitz, Prince Andrew, some of these other individuals that have been associated with this, I think have to be breathing easier, although obviously I'm sure no one's happy about the death of anyone.
Right. Attorney General William Barr is reportedly livid. In a statement, he said that Epstein's death raises serious questions. He's also saying he will work with the Inspector General, who is opening a separate investigation. How do you see that investigation differing from the FBI investigation? Will they be looking into different things?
Well, I think what the OIG is going to be looking at is potential misconduct or malfeasance or a lack of diligence on the part of DOJ personnel. That is, I think, going to be the focus of the OIG investigation. The OIG is an sort of quasi-independent body within the Justice Department, well-respected, nonpartisan organization. That said, it's not a full-blown criminal inquiry. I do think the FBI investigation into this will, determine whether or not there's any public corruption, which I think is a question that is raised by this, whether or not a guard or someone else was potentially. Attorney General is upset as well because, as you know, Anna, there's been a lot of speculation and conspiracy theories going around, concerns about whether or not, the president or the Attorney General, benefited from this. So I'm sure that this is, got to be very frustrating to Attorney General Barr.
All right, Renata Mariotti, good to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
In the wake of mass shootings in El Paso, in Dayton, Democratic candidates for president are laying out their gun control policies. They've gathered today in Des Moines, Iowa. Today marks 1 week since 22 people were shot and killed while shopping at Walmart. Just hours from now will mark 1 week since 9 more were shot and killed in a restaurant and bar district in Dayton, Ohio. Now, these two back-to-back mass shootings, first in El Paso, Texas, and then in Dayton, have left the country shaken, but also determined to create change. We've heard chants of do something. We've seen some Republicans change their stance on gun control, and even Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, who spent the past year or so blocking legislation, has said the Senate will consider new gun control legislation. He is refusing, however, to bring Congress back into session early. Today, more than a dozen presidential candidates are in Iowa speaking at a gun control forum, and CNN's Arlette Saenz joins us live in Des Moines. Arlette, what have been some of the breakout moments you've seen there?
Well, Anna, over the course of this day, you've heard from 16 of the Democratic presidential candidates here in person at this gun reform forum. And really, they've been laying out their vision for how to solve this issue relating to gun violence in this country. And Senator Kamala Harris was one of those lawmakers who just recently spoke. And listen to this new line that she had talking about President Trump and those shootings that occurred just about a week ago.
People say to me, did Donald Trump cause those folks to be killed? Well, no, of course, he didn't pull the trigger, but he's certainly been tweeting out the ammunition.
That's a similar message that's been relayed by other Democratic presidential candidates who have said that the president's words have kind of sparked some of this animus across the country. And then there was also a very emotional moment just a short while ago with Andrew Yang when he was asked, a woman asked a question and noted that her young child was killed by a stray bullet. Take a look at that moment that happened just a short while ago.
I have a 6 and 3-year-old boy. I was imagining it was one of them that got shot and the other saw it. That scene that you described, I'm sorry, it's like very, very affecting. You're right that when there's a gun in the household, you're more likely to have a child get shot or the owner get shot than to kill, let's say, an intruder into the house. Those are just numbers. Those are just the facts.
So there were clearly some very emotional moments here at this forum as these Democratic presidential candidates are trying to relay how they would try to solve and stem this crisis of gun violence in the country. Anna?
Yeah, it affects all of us. I think a lot of parents are feeling the way Andrew Yang expressed himself. Arlette Saenz, thank you for covering this for us. Former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg founded the group behind today's gun forum, and I asked him about the possibility that U.S. gun laws could change.
The NRA does not have the power that they had before by any stretch of the imagination. And it sort of defies logic as to why the president and Mitch McConnell seem to still be somewhat influenced by the NRA.
More of my interview with Mayor Bloomberg when CNN Newsroom returns. Hosted by Everytown for Gun Safety, the nonprofit founded by former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg. Bloomberg has personally invested tens of millions of dollars into gun control advocacy and research into gun violence and prevention, and he joined me just a short time ago to talk about whether things are different this time when it comes to actually seeing tangible changes at the federal and the congressional level on gun violence. So when we talk about that sense of hopelessness or cynicism or skepticism about anything being done when it comes to gun violence, you know, there was a crowd of people who fled Times Square this week because a motorcycle backfired, and their first thought was that it was someone shooting. What did you think when you saw that video of people running for their lives because they heard a loud sound?
Well, it's not unexpected that when you read about the chaos that's been going on elsewhere in this country, that your first thought might be, I wonder if it's happening here. I think it's also true that we tend to over-dramatize that. Not everybody in Times Square ran, and it was one bang, and it didn't sound like a rifle bullet or anything from what I've read. So I wasn't there, but that's what people said. They thought it was a car or a bike backfiring. So let's not say that the whole world in the time.
And to go to talk about whether things are different this time when it comes to actually seeing tangible changes at the federal and the congressional level on gun violence. So when we talk about that sense of hopelessness or cynicism or skepticism about anything being done when it comes to gun violence, you know, there was a crowd of people who fled Times Square this week because a motorcycle backfired, and their first thought was that it was someone shooting. What did you think when you saw that video of people running for their lives because they heard a loud sound?
Well, it's not unexpected that when you read about the chaos that's been going on elsewhere in this country, that your first thought might be, I wonder if it's happening here. I think it's also true that we tend to over-dramatize that. Not everybody in Times Square ran, and it was one bang, and it didn't sound like a rifle bullet or anything from what I've read. So I wasn't there, but that's what people said. They thought it was a car or a bike backfiring. So let's not say that the whole world in America is ready to commit suicide because...
My loyalty is with Mama Sippin', yeah? I'm just saying real quick. No shade. No none of that. I'm just telling you the truth. Alright? Alright, process served. Okay. There go Daff. Hey, Daff. What we doing, babe? How you feeling today, baby? How you feeling now? Okay. I see him, Katrina. Oh, okay, Nav. It's okay. Oh, I know, because the weather fucking up. I know, because Big Dawg, he was kind of sick too last week from, you know how the weather and stuff switch up. I understand. I ain't tripping. We can do it another time. It's fine. I go to the market after the 17th, nigga. Here, I'm telling enough. Listen here, I have a extravagant shit now. Here, wait. I spread this whole motherfucking table with this bitch after the 17th, nigga. Right here. I gotta let them know, yeah? That's the real deal. Shit, I understand, babe. Okay. I hope you feel a little bit better. Most definitely. Love you too, babe. I hope you feel a little bit better, yeah? You just let me know whenever you ready. And, we can do it whenever, you know? I got time. You know I be up in here, you know? So, it's up to you, you know? Whenever you ready, I'm available to do it with you. Whenever. You know, just get yourself together first, babe. Hey, Spook. How you do, babe? Hey, Chi-Town. How you doing, baby? Okay? So let me, Chi-Town, she was made that Sippin had a private chat. She's still talking about a private chat? I'm just saying, Keisha. Hey, Portia. Listen here. Sippin and I got their own page. Oh, shit, hey, now here. Look at here, now here. Nigga, okay. I'm just saying, she can't be mad at, Dawg. They got their own page. That don't make no sense. She can talk to whoever she want to talk to. Most definitely not. She can talk to whoever she chooses to talk to. Maybe I didn't say nothing about you. It wasn't about the group thing. Okay. Well, what was it about then, process, sir? Because you seem like you know a lot. And if the issues fucking interferes in family problems. Okay. And let me ask Gwen, are you still in here? Did you ever get your money, did you ever get that cleared up with the GoFundMe? Right, Chi-Town. Well, one thing I know about Brandy can most definitely, Brittany, I'm sorry. Yeah, well, I don't want to say Brandy. She most definitely can handle herself.
Square ran, and it was one bang, and it didn't sound like a rifle bullet or anything from what I've read. So I wasn't there, but that's what people said. They thought it was a car or a bike backfiring. So let's not say that the whole world in America is ready to commit suicide because they think they're going to get killed. That's not true.
But it is true. People are on edge and people are scared. That is a reality for a lot of people right now who think it could happen anywhere.
I think that's true, but what do you mean a lot? What percentage of the public do you think is worried? I don't get that when I talk to people. I think they understand that it's a dangerous world, but if you live in cities with good police departments that are in control, you're pretty safe. And if you live, for example, in New York and in New York City, the crime rate is so low, it's almost impossible to measure compared to any other city. We still have crime in New York. A little under 300 people get killed every year. But that is a very negligible number compared to any place else. And so where you live should impact your ability or your interest in jumping or getting out of the way. If you live in some of these cities with very high crime rate, then you hear a gunshot, it sounds to you like a gunshot, it probably is. And if you live in a city with a very low crime rate, it probably is not.
But I don't want to downplay the fear, and I understand what you're saying, but if it can happen at a Walmart, if it can happen in an elementary school, if it can happen at a concert, if it can happen in a bar, if it can happen, all these places where we've seen mass shootings now, I think the feeling is it could happen anywhere, even in cities where there isn't a high crime rate. And so that is why people are so jumpy. And that is perhaps why there is this new sense of urgency to accomplish something when it comes to gun control or gun violence safety.
I agree with you. There is a new sense of urgency, and it's wonderful that it's happening because maybe we finally will get the legislation we need. And if we do, your coverage of these events have been helpful. But it's also true that we live in a society where there's a small number of people who have access to guns, and if we could take away their access to guns, we would all be a lot safer.
And so let me ask you about that specifically, because in the cases of El Paso and Dayton, background checks wouldn't necessarily have prevented those shootings, because the two people who are either dead now because they committed the crime or are accused of the crime, as in El Paso's case, they were able to get guns. They passed background checks. So what would be the solution in those types of cases?
There is nothing that is going to guarantee 100% safety in life. Life isn't that way. But background checks would reduce dramatically the number of suicides and significantly the number of murders. Red flag laws don't always make a difference. But if you save one life, isn't it worth it? So I think you've got to be careful here in saying, oh, there's no solution because nothing works all the time. The bottom line is you can, if the public gets behind their city government and their police department, bring down the crime rate such that most people don't worry about it. And if you look at New York 20 or 30 years ago compared to today, I think most New Yorkers will tell you that they feel very safe, and the crime is not one of the things that they worry about generally.
And there is overwhelming support across the country for some gun control measures. Recent polling shows 94% of Americans support universal background checks. That includes 9 in 10 Republicans and 9 in 10 gun owners. And more than half of Americans support a ban on assault weapons. So when we talk also about how the NRA has so much power over the president and others who may be afraid of their political future for acting in, some capacity on gun control, should they be more afraid of not doing something than of acquiescing to the demands of Wayne LaPierre and the NRA?
Anna, in 2018, I supported 24 congressional candidates who were good, by my definition, good on guns and good on climate. 21 of them won and beat in almost every case an A-rated Republican, A-rated by the NRA. So that just goes to show you that the NRA does not have the power, and not everybody is running away from them. And now you're starting to see more and more Republican congressmen and senators saying, I don't want to be on the wrong side of this issue. If you survey NRA members, as you yourself said, the NRA members want background checks. And the NRA does not have the power that they had before by any stretch of the imagination. And it sort of defies logic as to why the president and Mitch McConnell seem to still be somewhat influenced by the NRA.
I would quickly want to get your reaction to this news, this breaking news, an apparent suicide of accused sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, a multimillionaire with a New York apartment who associated with many of the wealthiest and most powerful men in the country. What was your reaction when you heard the news?
It was interesting. I think I met him once 30 years ago. I certainly haven't seen him since then. And I don't know what happened. You'll have to ask the government. He was in federal penitentiary or federal jail, if I understand it. And they'll have to do an investigation and see what happened, and I'm sure they'll do it.
Our thanks to Mayor Michael Bloomberg for taking the time to join us. Now, police say the man accused of opening fire at an El Paso Walmart admits he was targeting Mexicans. We'll have the latest in that case next. Plus, the connection El Paso has now joined the group no one wants to join. Parkland strong, Vegas strong, Orlando strong, Sandy Hook strong. The list goes on. It's the call for resiliency at a time of unimaginable grief that follows being victimized by a gunman intent on killing as many people as possible. As of 1 week today, El Paso strong. CNN's Natasha Chen joins us now from El Paso. And Natasha, El Paso has to deal with the suspect's alleged confession to police that he targeted Mexicans. What are you hearing from people there?
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely, Anna. And so when they say El Paso Strong here at the memorial behind me or at the march today, they are talking also about responding to that, responding to racism and hatred, and saying that they will not take that. Enough is enough. The memorial that behind us has grown significantly over the past week from my right to my left over here, and you can see that there is some new green fencing that's gone around the crime scene, around the parking lot of this Walmart. So people people are still coming through at a steady pace, paying their respects. And this morning, there was a march from a downtown park all the way to a courthouse where presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke marched with them, Congresswoman Barbara Lee. They talked about this hatred and racism, this notion that this shooter allegedly told police that he drove all the way from the Dallas area here to West Texas, about a 10-hour drive, just to target Mexicans. And this, of course, hits very strongly with this community that is majority Hispanic. I want to also point out that I came to cover this story from the Mississippi ICE raids, where I spoke to teenagers there in Mississippi whose parents were detained. And those kids were very vocal in telling me, referencing this shooting, when talking about that incident. They said this is now personal. They feel targeted, and they wanted people to know that they're...
Please welcome Tommy Lahren.
I came to cover this story from the Mississippi ICE raids, where I spoke to teenagers there in Mississippi whose parents were detained. And those kids were very vocal in telling me, referencing this shooting, when talking about that incident. They said this is now personal. They feel targeted, and they wanted people to know that their parents and immigrants came to this country, work hard, and don't harm anyone. And they contrasted that with the shooters that they see, who they say are from the U.S., who are actually injuring others.
'Kitchen Nightmares. Gordon heads to the heart of farm country, Norwalk, Ohio.
Right now, I feel like I'm in a mental asylum.
Where he meets Joe Nagy.
You can't hurt my feelings, so let's get over the bullshit.
The most pretentious owner he's ever met.
Our food is the best by far. No one's ever done this.
Joe claims his restaurant is farm to table.
You're going to try all these animals at the restaurant.
But Chef Ramsay quickly discovers it's anything but.
Farm to table, it's not.
This owner runs his business like a ruthless dictator.
Just do what you do. I don't care what he says. Go, 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 go.
Not surprisingly, his staff are at their wits' end.
The way you treat me is disrespectful, crude, degrading.
Then you need to find another place to work.
Tonight, Chef Ramsay finds himself in a war with an owner so arrogant,
defensive, ignorant. If I'm all that, you're my twin.
And so resistant to change.
You're talking shit now.
This restaurant just might be impossible to save.
We don't have it.
That's tonight.
Are you that stupid?
On a shocking Kitchen Nightmares.
You want me out of here? I'm gonna leave. Good.
What is that?
He's serving rotten food.
You could possibly kill them.
Then wake up! You wake up! Shut the place down.
Get out of here.
It's amazing.
Thank you, chefs. 60 miles from Cleveland is the rural farming community of Norwalk, Ohio. It's here where Joe Nagy, after losing his job in food sales, bought a livestock ranch and decided to open Street Bistro.
How you guys doing? I was trained and worked for many old school chefs that were Europeans. Just hit it with that wine right there. And I always visualized having that place of my own. Mon chéri. The word fine dining is obnoxious. Get it oily on this plate, please, if you can't back it up. Guys, verbiage, okay? Bruschetta, crostinis, you know what that is? But I know that I have what it takes to do it. This is their big moment at the bistro.
Joe is in denial. This is not a fine dining restaurant.
Who do you think you're talking to? This is the finest of the finest.
What he tells us every day is he is the best fucking restaurant from New York to LA.
I would put this restaurant up against anyone because the passion.
Really, we are mediocre at best.
What is that? That's kind of gross. I don't know.
Isn't that wonderful? The food here is exceptional. We didn't get this elk from UPS. It comes from our ranch. It's fresh, sustainable, and local. We really are from farm to fork. That's why our food is the best by far.
He's always playing up the quality of the food.
We made that sauce from scratch.
And I know most of our stuff is frozen.
There are corners that are cut. For example, the steaks come from a wholesale food club.
Looks good, looks good.
They turn brown, they start smelling. I'm like, I would not eat that.
Hey, Joe.
I'm eating right now?
I didn't know. You came out with it before.
Excuse me.
When I think about Joe, I think of an arrogant, selfish jerk.
Quit asking all these arbitrary questions to these customers. Get the ice, cool it down.
He talks down to people.
Is there enough bread for dinner right now, or do you want me to do that part of the thinking too?
It's always somebody else's fault.
It's your responsibility that the bread doesn't taste stale.
He makes it very unbearable to even be here.
The way you treat me is disrespectful, crude.
You need to find another place to work. I come to win. I didn't come to fuck up.
I don't think Joe can see past his ego.
I know that Tommy and me are handsome guys. Don't come back here and stare at us.
Joe doesn't realize his actions affect our livelihood. What is this? That one. The owner was very condescending. The owner was rude. Business is super slow, and the big reason people don't come in is because of Joe.
I've never had a piece of meat come back in here in 10 years.
He's the one who needs to change his way of thinking,
Don't come around starting blah, 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 blah.
or we're not going to survive.
Is the Mill Street Bistro a kitchen nightmare? By no means. We're not a kitchen nightmare when it comes to cleanliness, functionality. Are we a kitchen nightmare because we have no asses in the seats? Yes. Yes.
Before Chef Ramsay visits Mill Street Bistro, Joe wants Gordon to check out his farm so he can show him firsthand the livestock that supplies the restaurant.
Joe? Chef Ramsay, how are you?
Good to see you.
Pleased to meet you.
What a gorgeous place.
Yeah, just a small little working ranch. Let me show you around.
Please. How long have you had the farm?
8 years.
How long have you had the restaurant?
5 years. I want Chef Ramsay to critique my restaurant and say, you got something, Joe. That's what I'm looking for.
And look at these beauties here. Gorgeous.
You're going to try all these animals at the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
This is all the things I've learned in Europe and New York and the places I've worked in as a tableside culinary chef.
I see you work as a chef.
I am self-taught by old school Europeans, master chefs that had a liking to me because of my passion.
Yeah.
I was in the food distribution business
As a salesman?
salesman and a consultant for all the large distributors. Well, things changed, so I opened up a restaurant. But
And what type of restaurant is it?
I like to say fine dining.
Fine dining. And is the restaurant making money?
No.
Why?
Because we have to get more asses in the seats, and we have to get people to take us serious. I think some people are finding me pretentious.
Really?
They're finding me arrogant. I'm not arrogant. I'm a passion-loving person. Let's just kind of swing over here. The buffalo, they should be in the next several weeks having calves. This is my buddy here.
Your buddy?
Yeah.
Oh, goat.
Hey, come here, Skinny.
What's his name?
His name's Skinny?
Skinny.
Yeah, he's very affectionate. He just really wants to be loved, you know.
Are we going to slaughter him?
No.
No. Oh.
You know, I always tell Skinny, I said, you're the only one that's not going to get whacked around here. You know what I mean? Everybody else is up for debate. You know, but he's like my dog, and I take him for rides.
He's like your pet, Skinny.
Yeah, he just loves to be around me.
He's close to you, isn't he?
Yeah, he's an affectionate guy.
You were about to kiss him then, weren't you?
No, I don't kiss him.
I can tell you guys are close.
Yeah, we're close.
Maybe a little too close, eh? Hey, don't you dare.
Yeah.
Hey, fuck.
Hey, stop.
See, he's jealous. Me and you talking. I'll be 2 minutes, Skinny, okay?
You grab a glass of wine, and you pull over here, and he comes over, and he's just licking your hand, and you're just sitting there going, it's worth it.
So you have a glass of wine with him as well?
I think things get a little strange when you have this relationship with farm animals.
Look at this place. You run this single-handedly? You and Skinny?
Me and Skinny.
When was the last time you had a day off?
Never.
Never? Joe, come on.
The things that I'm doing is pretty incredible, even to my standards.
What excites me is when I see a man this motivated to put all this effort into food in your local bistro.
Yeah.
I'm dying to taste some of that passion.
Let's do it.
Okay.
I'll see you back at the restaurant. Thanks for coming out, Chef.
Thank you. Tell Skinny we're just friends.
Coming up.
That was uncalled for. Wow.
Joe's problems are just beginning.
You are so arrogant.
And later, a massive showdown between Chef Ramsay and Joe.
Wake up! You wake up!
No one is backing down.
I get it. Are you that stupid?
It's a confrontation you have to see to believe.
You want me out of here? I'm going to leave.
Good.
Farm-to-table restaurants have a strong appeal with Chef Ramsay. After being impressed by Joe's farm, he's quite anxious to try the food.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
What a gorgeous place.
Yes, thank you.
Look at this.
Ready to sit?
It's stunning. Yeah, very. Thank you.
Follow me, please.
Excellent. Oh, why is the fire on? 95 degrees.
That is just for aesthetics. It is actually
aesthetics.
not putting out heat, but it can. It can if you need.
So that's not really a fire. So turn it off?
You could.
Well, it's 95 degrees outside, so I just thought, when it's that hot.
Agreed.
When it's that hot outside, do you want to walk in and see a fire? Right, where would you like me to sit?
Right over here.
Thank you, my darling.
You are welcome.
Just out of interest.
Yes.
What's the name tag for?
We've always had this since we opened.
But we're not a chain, are we?
We are not.
No. Could you take it off?
Of course.
Please.
Yay! We are not little lost dogs. I'm fine without it.
What's wrong with this fine dining bistro?
The business is lacking.
Why do you think that is?
It would be Joe and the way he treats the guests out on the floor. Yes.
Oh, really?
If they have a complaint.
So he goes and, victimizes the customer?
It has happened, yes. I've seen it happen.
Wow. And he's trained with some of the best chefs in Europe?
I've heard that story, yes.
Seriously? Wow. I mean, things are starting to unravel. Okay. Anyway, I'd like to see as much as I can, so I can get up to speed with this fine dining bistro. Any specials?
The features we have this evening, we have house-made bruschetta for an appetizer.
Specials?
Features. We are told to use features as our descriptive word for what we have available that is not on the menu.
I feel like I'm going to see a movie.
What restaurant says features? Who does that?
So do you have any features?
Yes, our features this evening, elk medallion served over a grilled portobello mushroom cap.
Let's go for the elk feature. Okay.
All right.
What else?
The catch of the day, we are offering a trio of our Ohio-raised bluegill. We have perch and largemouth bass.
Let's go with that.
Okay.
Local, love it. Scallops on croute.
Okay.
The vegetarian ravioli primavera. Onion soup, please.
Okay.
Oyster rockefeller. Porcini scallops, I'm going to go for.
Okay.
Is that a quesadilla?
It is a quesadilla.
It's not fine dining or bistro. Well, let's go a little bit Mexican, shall we?
Okay.
An elk quesadilla. Lots of elk, but not quesadilla. Is that a typo error?
That is the price.
New York strip, 26. Filet mignon, 29.
Yes.
They must be some of the most expensive prices locally, right?
Correct, yes.
Wow. I think we're done, darling. Nice to meet you.
As well.
The good news is, at least it's farm to table, so I've got something to cling on to.
All right, he wants a French onion soup. Do his quesadilla, start getting that prep. We do things with passion, with integrity. I need 10 raviolis, please. The food here at the bistro is the freshest, hands down.
How are you, sir? That is on the badge. Bill. Yes. I know your name now. You can take it off.
Thank you.
Excellent. Come on over. Good to meet you. Put that down.
You as well. It's a pleasure.
Likewise. What's the first thing wrong with this place?
Well, we make no effort whatsoever to market to the locals.
Really?
Apparently, yes, I think Joe believes the restaurant's a little above the local area.
Seriously?
I think that's probably a problem.
I thought it was pricey, but I mean, 16,000 locals on your doorstep. Why would you ignore them?
Arrogance?
Wow. So, how'd you rate it in terms of the food on a scale of 1 to 10?
5.
Bill, you're scaring me. Can I meet all the staff with the badges? I want to get rid of those bloody things. Let's call a meeting with the badges. Say hello and give me a badge. Let's go. Turn your badge in. You're a wanted man. Down. Excellent, thank you. Next. First name?
Rebecca.
Rebecca. Excellent. Madam. Wonderful. Can hear you.
Hello.
Name tag. Down. Fire's off. Badges are down. Excellent.
Would this be my French onion?
Yes, ma'am.
I can hear him now.
Is the onion soup supposed to be so goddamn bloody good?
All right, so we have the French onion soup to start you off.
Thank you, my darling. Who made the soup?
Joe makes the soup.
Joe. Wow. Thank you. The cheese is barely melted. Cheese. Normally should be packed with onions. There's so much fat on top of it. Greasy.
This is going to GR. Amy's up.
Oh, what is that?
Oysters Rockefeller.
Okay, great.
May I take that?
Thanks, darling. Yeah, it was really greasy on top.
Okay, I'll let him know.
Greasy, watery, and short of cheese and onions.
Okay.
What happened here?
That is a parsley infused oil
And he squirts that on top.
around the rim.
Jesus. Right.
I'll check on you in a moment.
Thanks, darling. Wow.
Joe, Chef Ramsay said that it was greasy, had a lack of onions, and not enough cheese.
Not enough cheese? Let me go talk to this guy. Chef, would you like us to prepare another French onion?
Joe, it takes about 4 hours to caramelize the onions. I'd like to move on.
Want to move? Okay,
and,
sure.
And I'd like to continue tasting.
Sure.
And,
Okay, let's do that then. Have you had an opportunity to taste
yeah.
the Oysters Rockefeller?
Is that a bechamel on top? What is that on there? What have you put there?
It's the hollandaise.
Holiday, because it's all broken, but I had to spit that out because it's bitter. That normally comes when oysters are frozen. What's the oil around the outside that's like...
We just put a little bit of our olive oil. It was just more of a garnish that should not have been...
Can you see my rim?
But I don't see anything on the oysters.
Right. Well, I got it in there, there.
Well, we're not dousing the plate in oil.
I'm not here to argue. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, I can make you another one of these if you want to just keep on moving.
Oh, no. Let's move. Let's keep moving.
I got you. Okay, I'll take these away.
Excellent.
When it comes to Chef Ramsay, I'm not intimidated because I know a lot of chefs. I've cooked and been all around. Oyster Rockefellers are terrible. That's funny, man.
Oh, look. Please, put that down. That looks... Ooh, why is it on a rack?
Oh, this is just so we can show our...
Who makes the cake?
They come from Cleveland.
And it's like a procession of fuel for the cake. Walk past the girl and throw some flowers at her as you walk past.
Okay.
Ready? That's what you do when people are dead.
Do you want me to sing too?
Long rest of the cake.
What you should be doing is look. You should have that. Turn around. You carry the front of the procession. Okay, right, you got it from here. Here we go.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you.
What in the bloody you would put carrots on a puff pastry? Why would you do that?
This would be your scallop on croûte.
Thanks, man. These are the local carrots.
Micro carrots.
Oh, micro carrots.
Yeah.
From chefs.
From the local farm.
Do you not think you should let it grow a bit?
Well, I don't think they're there to be really eaten. They're more for a garnish. That's a garnish. Just to add some color.
Okay.
But I'd like to explain what we're spending on micro carrots.
Yeah. Can we go through this after?
Whatever you want to do. You are here.
Right.
As our guest.
Can I give those back to you? Joe?
I don't personally want them myself, but you can take them back to the kitchen.
No, I personally want them. Thank you, Amy.
I have staff here that'll take care of that. You don't hand me raw food in my dining room. Man, that fucking pissed me off, man. We don't need them to bust our balls over if there's little petite carrots that go there. Those same carrots go to the White House. Those same carrots go to the Five Seasons. They go global, okay? If a fucking micro garnish carrot was on as a garnish, you're gonna hand the owner the little petite carrots? Does he know? He's in the wrong place.
Now that Chef Ramsay is beginning to question the cuisine,
can I give those back to you?
Joe is beginning to show his true colors.
I don't personally want them.
Recruits. Sorry, Amy. These things are, they're like rubber bullets. It's so bad. And look at this. The pastry's raw.
That is a common complaint.
Gooey, slimy, gross.
Let me take this right out of your way.
Show that to him?
I sure will.
Yeah? Thank you, madam.
You're welcome.
Wow. Uncrew my ass.
Joseph? Firm, chewy, rubber, bullets. Disgusting.
Apparently there's nothing that he likes. Yeah, set it down. We said we'd talk about it at the end.
Okay.
So, puff pastry is about as flaky as you can fucking get right here.
Wow, it still looks a little doughy to me.
Wow.
The El Quesadilla.
Is that
The queso cheese.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Enjoy.
Thank you. My God. It's like chewy and tough. And if there's one thing that should never go in a quesadilla, it's elk. I got one thing to say to this quesadilla. Adios. Wow.
The vegetarian ravioli.
Oh, jeez. I spotted some more of that oil again.
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
It is the dish I least like serving.
Wow. Thanks, Daddy.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Daddy. Look at this. It's gross. Wow. I mean, that is a joke. I mean, it's ice cold. Let's get one thing right. Farm to table is not. Farm to garbage can is disgusting. Amy, will you show him that? It's ice cold.
I certainly will.
Thanks, Daddy.
So these are ice cold.
They were hot when they went out.
It took me 10 seconds to get from here to there.
I guess you could cook them until they're totally piping hot.
I think they should be. Not cold.
Yeah, that's how we do it, man.
Right on.
Catch of the day.
Catch of the day. We have the sea bass, the perch, and the bluegill. One thing I did need to ask you, temperature preference for your elk medallion.
Love to get mid-rare, please.
All right.
Thank you. The fish is dry. Almost like it's been freezer burnt. And that one there, grease. Fork in there. It's full of grease. Amy, rescue me. Just rubbery. And this one here, perch, you go, it's full of grease.
Very greasy.
I don't know why you do a trio with the same one. I just think that's... But the biggest disappointment is nothing tastes fresh. A catch of the day means fresh. To me, it all tastes frozen.
Okay.
Thanks, Sally.
Okay. Tom, it all tastes frozen. It does not taste fresh at all.
Hey, Amy, set that down right now. Take this out.
Okay.
This food's got to get out.
Right.
What's wrong?
They said it all tastes frozen, and it should have been done in different breadcrumbs.
Look how they fucking do it in Ohio. If you did it any other way, they wouldn't eat it in Ohio.
Please.
Elk medallions and a grilled portobello mushroom.
Wow. Oh, these are not for eating. Thank you, madam.
You're welcome.
It's tough as old boots. This is incredible. Would you mind?
I would not.
Yeah, please. That is dreadful.
You can't even chew it.
I'm so sorry. That's not edible.
Would you like to know how much we charge for that?
This one?
$35.
$35?
Yes, chef.
Wow. Will you ask him to taste that?
Okay. Big pack.
Thank you. Wow.
He would like you to taste the elk. Very tough, chewy. The main item in the dish.
He's dead wrong. That's aged elk. Elk is going to have a bite. It's going to have a chew. It's characteristic of it. It's never going to change. That is a tender piece of elk. Chef Ramsay does not know the bite of an elk, and I would like to go to his restaurant where he has elk. That fucking elk is tender. It's delicious. What I'm trying to accomplish is from farm to fork. This is how these items eat. I was surprised that he didn't get that. I'm going to challenge him. I'm going to say, you know what? At my expense, I'm going to go to your fucking restaurant. You make me elk. And you show me how to make it.
Joe said you are dead wrong.
Dead wrong.
Dead wrong. He had 2 pieces. He said and I quote, "That is a tender piece of elk."
Wow. If you honestly thought that was tender, they can eat my running shoe, you know. Thanks for all your insight.
Okay.
Tell everyone to get ready for dinner. I'll be back.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, mate. I'll talk to Joe after. Yeah?
Okay.
I'm going out for some fresh air.
Okay. I'll let
I'm
him
going
know.
out. Is there a local cafe nearby? Or?
Berries up.
Berries.
Yep.
That's it.
But thank you.
I've heard of Berries.
See you.
That's one on Main Street.
I'm doing it.
I'm doing it.
I'm doing it.
We're doing it.
I'm testing for HIV.
Knowing your HIV stat. Thank you, mate.
Correct.
Wow.
Chef Ramsay said he is going to get something to eat, get some air, and he will be back for dinner.
I wonder where he's going to go get something to eat that's so great. I'm going to go to a restaurant. You motherfucker. He's going to leave and go get something to eat. Good luck. Go find something better.
Chef Ramsay has returned to Mill Street Bistro after a walk around town and a quick bite.
Where's Joe?
He's ready to give his verdict on the food to Joe, and the staff couldn't be more excited to witness it.
I just want to talk about lunch.
Yeah.
It's going to be entertaining.
Your thoughts on my lunch?
My thoughts on your lunch?
Yeah, an insight, yeah.
I've never had anybody in my career critique my items that told me every one of them was a piece of shit and he had to go down the street to eat.
Wow.
That was uncalled for.
Oh my God.
Can I just give you an insight to my lunch?
Sure, since you've asked me, now you can go ahead.
That's very kind of you. I wasn't impressed with anything. I didn't take second or third mouthful from any dish. Let's start off with the scallops en croûte. The pastry was raw, rubbery scallops, bland.
Okay.
Next course, oyster Rockefeller. Yeah, oyster disaster.
Okay.
Catch of the day. Out of those three fish, which one was fresh? He's not going to answer me. He'll just be BS. How many of those
I'll
catch of the
answer
day? You think your fish is fresh?
Does this fucking say fresh fish?
On the board it says fresh catch of the day. What does catch of the day mean?
Fresh fish.
Catch of the frozen freezer?
We have fresh fish.
No, we do not.
Well, Lake Erie perch was fresh. They were all IQF frozen.
IQF,
individually, quickly frozen.
Right. When did that come off the boat?
4 days ago.
So you haven't got any in your freezer?
Pardon?
You haven't got any in your freezer?
Fresh fish?
Have you got it in your freezer?
Yeah.
Thank you. What does catch of the day mean, Joe?
It means what is fresh, local to the region at the time.
Not frozen. You're trying to pull the wool over your customers' eyes. If it's not fresh, don't call it fresh. Catch of the day.
Go to the next thing. We got it.
You're not answering a straight question with a straight answer, and you're deflecting it.
No, I'm not deflecting everything. I'm
Frozen
telling you.
fish, frozen oysters. You're deflecting everything.
You made your point.
Next course, elk quesadilla. Dry, rubbery, disgusting elk that should go nowhere near a quesadilla.
I'm okay with that.
What were you thinking putting that in a quesadilla?
What was I thinking?
Yeah, just...
Yeah, I got the balls to make what I feel that might work.
My next course, elk medallions.
There was nothing wrong with that elk.
Chewy, bland, raw in the middle.
You wanted a medium rare.
Oh, paying $35 for it, I thought I deserved that.
Okay.
Excuse me, so if I got the medium, would it have tasted better?
They would have been more consistently cooked.
Oh.
I have been eating elk for 30 years. Do you have it on your menu?
Seasonally.
You explained to me what the game season is.
So it's when game is at
Okay.
its absolute best.
This is back in Scotland?
No.
This is where?
New York.
New York.
Yeah, New York. Let me tell you something. You're not a chef. Stop pretending to be one.
Did I tell you I was a chef?
You told me you trained with the best chefs in Europe.
I didn't fucking tell you that.
I'm self-taught by old school Europeans, master chefs that had a liking to me.
Who is the chef here?
It's my kitchen. I'm the chef.
You just told me you're not. But now you are.
I'm not a certified chef like
No, I know
yourself.
that. But who cooks?
I do.
Right. So you're the head chef. You write the menus. You dictate the special features.
Correct.
Let me tell you something. You're not a fine dining bistro. You're a small man with a fake bistro. You're shooting way above your station. You've totally misjudged your market. Because all these pretentious ideas that you think are going to work are screwed.
What are you referring to?
Well, here we go. Here, make it easy for you.
Yeah, I speak English too.
Okay. Store-bought chocolate cake, garnished with fake flowers. You don't even cook. You just prance around behind the line, throwing raw bits of carrots on top of raw pastry. I've never come across a bistro anywhere in the world.
In the world?
In the world.
In the world? We'll
Dude,
research that.
You are so fucking arrogant. You don't even listen to your customers, let alone your staff. You have a gifted young group of servers that told me more problems and issues in the first 20 minutes of meeting them than you have done all fucking day.
Yeah.
Now it's funny.
Yeah.
From a fake fireplace to fake garnish, yet you want me to blow fucking smoke up your phony ass.
I don't want you to blow smoke up my phony ass. It was petite micro carrots that was
It's not just
garden.
about the carrots. Carrots is just a fucking example of 20 things that have gone wrong.
You're busting my balls.
Because you're in fucking denial. You want me to come in and change your carrots and make some fresh fucking chocolate cake for you? Yeah. I'm lost for words. I don't know what to say. Do you know what you can do for me? Impress me with your dinner service. Show me how you function. Chef.
You want to see what comes back? Our elk does not come back.
I'm deep inside your feelings are hurt.
My fucking feelings ain't hurt.
Oh.
You can't hurt my feelings.
You're ignoring my advice.
No, I'm not.
You're going up against me.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you
ignoring
are.
your advice.
You're like Christmas. Defensive, ignorant, and in complete
Guess
denial.
what? If I'm all that, you're my twin. Yeah, because I've been called you here many a times. So let's get over the bullshit.
I can cook, Joe. When you have the arrogance to stand in front of me and charge your local $35 fucking for entrees that are inedible, have a look at yourself, man.
People seem to enjoy it.
Bullshit.
Bullshit. That didn't go so well.
After clashing with Chef Ramsay over the quality of his food, owner Joe is truly not understanding Gordon's point of view.
I know more about fucking elk and buffalo and beef than he'll ever know. Gordon Ramsay didn't get it.
They're saying that I'm shortchanging people and that was fraud.
Come on, let's cook our rotten fucking food that he wouldn't have when he was in county jail.
Give me a fucking break, Chef Ramsay.
Well, he just slammed my restaurant like it's never done. He does not know what I know about lake fish. He does not know what I know about buffalo. And I'm supposed to take this that my food is garbage and I'm a fraud? I don't give a shit what he says. How many times did you have elk come back since you've been here, Bex? Jen? Kaylee? Bill? Speak up. I think every one of you need to get your shit together. That's what this is about.
Yeah, customers are.
So I appreciate what you're doing. I honestly appreciate each and every one of you what you're doing, okay?
Let's get to dinner ships. Right this way, Bob. My apologies on how much you heard.
This is some of the finest fucking elk you can get. What Chef Ramsay called it garbage, the worst shit in the world. We're supposed to wait to serve it when the grass is a certain height back over in Scotland.
My name's Bill. I'll be taking care of you tonight.
I'll have the bistro shots. All right.
Thinking of straight medium.
Cream of asparagus, is it pure vegetarian?
Listen, leave the kitchen, go on the other side.
Joe gets mad if anybody's saying anything to the kitchen. You know, he says you need to be in there, you need to be quick, you need to respond to get the fuck out of the kitchen.
We went over to see the getting the shift. So quiet. You know that's true? I want to be quiet then. Neighbors complaining?
No, there's supposed to be any unnecessary chattering.
So no traffic.
Right.
So how do you communicate? You put that up there.
I put that up.
So we get a job to do. We're trying to focus. Mediocre as we are, people just, they want to talk about something, just take it out there.
Jesus, I'm trying to finish out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Chicken scallop, a perch, a pork chop, and a strip.
Oh, well, this might be my chicken vernicchio then.
Just taking a guess, what table number is this? You don't have to ask how long?
Yeah, he has not said what table it's coming up.
Okay, let's get these out. Boom, boom, boom. We should be okay after that.
Even though there are very few words exchanged between the front of house and the kitchen,
Stay breathing room.
food is still being delivered at a reasonable pace.
Porcini scallops.
Unfortunately, the food is missing the mark with many of the customers.
It just doesn't taste right.
The sauce is hoagie. Let me get it out of your way. Is there something else we could get for you?
Sorry about that.
This was sent back. She said it doesn't taste good. Good. What's wrong with it? She did not like it. She doesn't taste right. It's strong. Huh? It's stronger. Very strong.
I think what she did is she got a bite of rosemary.
Oh, God, Joe. If she complains she's got a branch of rosemary in the teapot, she's not. I think it's overpowering. The beer doesn't work and it's too strong. He didn't mention anything about rosemary. Come on. Man.
Hey, we're past that.
What then you cook? Okay, cook there. Fuck me. Tried to cook there. Passion. Passion fruit, mate. That's the closest you'll get to passion.
You got a devil in your ravioli. A rock. Yeah. Natural rock. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a rock. I will take this.
What is it?
This was in my lady's ravioli.
What is it?
Like a rock.
Wow. Joe, ladies, water ravioli. Like a rock in there. What table number, please, Amy?
31.
It's like a stone. Never seen it. Well, you guys.
That doesn't happen here, but it happened now. All right, what else can you fuck up here?
He is being so critical and so brutal.
Tommy, we're gonna make all the bad food that we make for everybody.
Wow.
Oh my God.
That's it. I can't do anymore.
I can cook, let me tell you, but I ain't gonna do this.
Coming up,
My God.
a nasty secret is revealed,
Surely you got a bit more respect than that.
and Chef Ramsay has had enough with Joe Nagy.
Wake up! You wake up!
It's the most intense confrontation Chef Ramsay has had all year.
You want me out of here? I'm going to leave.
Good!
It's dinner service at Street Bistro, and in spite of multiple dishes being returned to the kitchen,
Joe, ladies, boy, and ravioli. Like a rock in there.
All right, what else can we fuck up here?
Joe remains in denial.
Tommy, we're gonna make all the bad food that we make for everybody.
Oh, my God. Head chef, my house.
I don't care.
Hello? Teresa, how are you?
As part of his research, Chef Ramsay had reached out to a former employee, and her return phone call could not have happened at a better time.
Thanks so much for coming down. You good?
It's nice to meet you.
Likewise. Good to see you too.
I have just some things I wanted to share with you and tell you.
Let's go and stand over here. Wow. Take me from the start, will you, please? Give me some background. You quit recently? How long ago?
A month ago. I was hired for garde and prep.
And then what happened?
I ended up being garde, prep, dishes, cleaning. I do my own prep list. We have no head chef. So I'm in there busting my ass. He has to have someone always to put his frustrations onto, scapegoat. And so he's
had only me to do it. And I would come in every day and it was just, this is wrong, that's wrong. And telling me how horrible, I was being pretty much. And I just couldn't take it anymore. I'm doing much better now. I'm not crying when I go home. I'm not stressing out before I go to work. The reason I quit is I have too much pride.
You're right.
No. I took some pictures. This is the stuff that was here. That's meat in a baggie.
What's he doing in a bag?
Blood. It's to be served.
To be served?
That's the chef garden vegetables.
Wow.
That's the black girl pork chops.
Oh my God, what is it with this guy? He preaches farm to table. All I've seen is frozen to table.
The steaks he buys, he goes to a store and buys little tenderloins and stuff and he cuts them up.
Why is he pretending? Why is he playing at it? Why is he kidding himself on trying to pull the wool over the customer's eyes?
It's a cheapskate. He wants to make money.
The locals in this area, he thinks he's...
Calls them hillbillies.
Seriously. It's dreadful.
He needs to know that what he's doing is wrong. He needs to get his stuff together in there. I don't see how you're gonna do it.
Well, listen, I appreciate you coming down.
Yes, it was nice to meet you.
Likewise.
All right, thank you.
On the heels of getting more disturbing information from an insider, Chef Ramsay knows he needs to do a deeper investigation, and it begins in the storage room.
My God. Half frozen, blood stained, sap. It's not even frozen, it's half soft, half frozen. Where's that from? No date. Wow, what a mess. My God. Frozen food that's been frozen since 2009, 3 years ago, used by 2010. Frozen blue cheese. Why would you freeze blue cheese? Farm to table? It's not. What is that? It's like frozen AstroTurf. What is that? Bingo. There they are. My little Rockefellers, full of water. Wow. Lesson number one, never ever freeze an oyster. The worst thing you can ever do to it. Wow. Frozen shrimp. From farm to freezer to defrost. Shrimp of the day. He's showing off his farm to table. Blowing smoke up my arse about how fresh everything is. And look, a freezer full of frozen oysters, mussels to frozen cheeses. Why would you put blue cheese in a freezer? Why? Why would you freeze any oyster? Wow. What a fake.
I need 2 tips on. Gotcha.
Joe, I get upset when I see fakery. From a frozen ravioli, a frozen birch, frozen oysters, and when you deny it, that makes me mad.
Well, let's talk about that.
Because you're making up stories.
I'm not making up
yes,
stories.
You are. That's how fucking deluded you are.
No, I'm not deluded. We have fresh stuff, okay?
I'm struggling here to stay in this building right now. I swear to God.
I got to cook right now.
Yeah, that's
okay.
I wish you would. I'm standing here watching a dead man walking.
Joe, I need a regular French onion soup.
Onion soup. All right, the onion soup's ready.
Are they raw onions in there? What's that? Did you put raw onions in there? I didn't know. Why are we doing this to each other? Is this a wind-up? Look at me, putting raw onions in soup. I don't know if you're just fucking around. I'm lost, Joe. Why are you doing this?
You said earlier that it needed more onions, okay? We responded by putting the onions in there so they had more of a bite to it.
It's raw. What's the matter with you? We send that out there, it's going to come straight back.
What do you want to hear?
Take it off, Joe.
Take the menu off the menu.
86 it. Save whatever little reputation you got left. Man, surely you've got a bit more respect than that. I'm trying to reason with you, Joe.
I get it.
Fine.
I get it.
Fine. But I am not here to show an idiot you can't put fucking raw onions in an onion soup. I can't teach you that. That's called common sense. That in your tiny mind is not common. Pardon? Come here, you. Should we put raw onions in a caramelized onion soup? Tell him!
No.
Thank you. You've got talented staff to tell you that. Ask your chef. It's like you're doing it to me on purpose.
His verbal bullshit is just a bunch of bullshit. But his physical stance in your way is ridiculous. So what he needs needs to do is get out of the kitchen.
We can talk about it.
Yeah,
some other time. We're busy. Joe, draw me out of here. Tell me the truth. You want me out of here, I'm going to leave.
Previously on Kitchen Nightmares.
Right now, I feel like I'm in a mental asylum.
Chef Ramsay went head-to-head with one of the most arrogant owners he's ever met.
I've never had a piece of meat come back in here in 10 years.
Mill Street Bistro's Joe Nagy preached farm to table.
Our food is the best by far. No one's ever done this.
But Chef Ramsay quickly found out it was anything but.
Fish is freezer burn.
The food is overpriced for the neighborhood.
$35.
Pretentious.
Mon chéri.
And simply disgusting.
That's gross.
To make matters worse, Joe lives in a fantasy world.
I would put this restaurant up against anyone.
And everybody knows it except him.
This is not a fine dining restaurant.
Who do you think you're talking to? This is the finest of the finest.
When Chef Ramsay pointed out Mill Street's issues,
You're not a chef. Stop pretending to be one.
Joe fought him on every point.
You're talking shit now.
He remained defiant
Defensive? Ignorant? If I'm all that, you're my twin.
and took great pride in deflecting everything.
You're busting my balls. Because you're in fucking denial.
At the start of dinner service,
He does not know what I know.
Chef Ramsay observed how dysfunctional Joe was in the kitchen.
Leave the kitchen, go on the other side. Go, 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 go.
Soon after, there were several customer complaints.
It just doesn't taste good.
But Joe stood his ground.
I think what she did is she got a bite of rosemary.
He didn't mention anything about rosemary. Come on.
And while Chef Ramsay was relentless,
Ladies, boy, ravioli. Like a rocket now.
Joe simply refused to acknowledge his mistakes.
It doesn't happen here.
Hey, chef, my ass.
And after witnessing a steady stream of food being returned,
All right, what else can we fuck up here?
Chef Ramsay decided it was time to do a little investigating.
Frozen blue cheese. Frozen shrimp. Farm to table. It's not.
Then, with clear evidence that Joe was lying about the quality and freshness of his food,
I get upset when I see fakery.
We have fresh stuff, okay?
Chef Ramsay tried once again to get through to him.
You're making up stories.
I'm not making up
Yes, you
stories.
are.
But Joe blew him off.
But I'm not here to show an idiot you can't put fucking raw onions in an onion soup. We can talk about it.
Yeah, some other time. We're busy.
Which left Chef Ramsay completely frustrated, with one thing left to say.
Joe, you want me out of here? I'm going to leave.
What is that? You're serving rotten food.
Possibly killed him.
Then wake up! You wake up! Shut the place down. Get out of here! That is amazing.
Thank you, chefs.
And now, the dramatic conclusion of Mill Street Bistro.
I'm struggling here to stay in this building right now. I swear to God. Gord, I got to cook right now. Okay?
Right, what's yours?
Joe, I need a regular French onion soup.
Onion soup.
All right, the onion soup's ready.
Are they raw onions in there? What's that? Did you put raw onions in there? I didn't know. Why are we doing this to each other? Is this a wind-up? Look at me. Putting raw onions in a soup. I don't know if you're just fucking around. I'm lost, Joe. Why are you doing this?
You said earlier that it needed more onions. We responded by putting the onions in there so they had more of a bite to it.
It's raw. What's the matter with you? We send that out there, it's going to come straight back.
What do you want to hear? That I
Take it off, Joe.
take the menu off the menu.
86s. Save whatever little reputation you got left. Man. Surely you got a bit more respect than that. I'm trying to reason with you, Joe.
I get it.
Fine.
I get it.
Fine. But I'm not here to show an idiot you can't put raw onions in an onion soup. I can't teach you that. That's called common sense. That in your tiny mind is not common. Come here, you. Should we put raw onions in a caramelized onion soup? Tell him! No. Thank you. You've got talented staff to tell you that. Ask your chef. Looks like you're doing it to me on purpose. Joe, do you want me out of here?